I also want to thank the men in the room and gender non-conforming people in the room for being our co-conspirators and not just passively sitting this one out because you know might be too uncomfortable for you. This is an excruciating topic. There's just no way around it. It is the sanctum sanctorum of colonization. And so I'd like to just make sure that this space is respectful, especially to those who have survived MMIWG. Before I give the introduction, we're also going to be offering some helplines for anyone who might be experiencing memories or realizations during this panel, and let you know that you can talk to any of us afterwards if that would be more helpful too. So first of all, just as an introduction, MMIWG, for those of you who don't know, is an abbreviation. It stands for Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls, and is also inclusive of Two-Spirit, Mahu, or in English, transgender people as well. But the center is squarely on women because of the way that women have been specifically defined by Western colonizers as not just second-class citizens, but also second-rate human beings. And so we are very clear that although other people are impacted by violence and colonization, that this issue is specifically about hatred and harmful beliefs about women in particular. So MMIWG is not just the problem. MMIWG is a collective, organized movement, a response that started by Indigenous women and people in the imperial core, so in what's called the global north, and specifically Turtle Island. And so we have to credit them for the political organizing that they did to get the international attention that eventually, galvanized people all around the world to raise this issue in front of it. MMIWG, it's really important to say that name. MMIWG is a crisis because it correctly reframed this idea of individualized random violence into a coherent crisis that is caused by systems created by white people. I also want to say we have to repeat, we have to say that MMIWG, because it's clear by saying that this is not about, that Native people are not to blame for this issue. And that is one of the core messages of this movement. MMIWG is as old and as wide as European, American, and Japanese imperialism. So it is not a new issue at all. Some of you might have heard the term the comfort women movement from the Pacific region during World War II, or military sexual slavery. Although those weren't explicitly indigenous or indigenous-led, those are also part of this movement because this is an international issue. So today, you are going to hear about, really the main question is, does MMIWG exist in Hawaii, and what does it look like? So we have a broad swath of panelists who are joining us today, who are members of our MMNHWG, our Missing and Murdered Native Hawaiian Women and Girls Task Force. And one of the things that they all have in common is that they understand that the systems that got us here are not going to be capable or even desirable to get us out of it. So first, I will start with Hawaii State Representative Stacey Lynn Eli, who represents Makakilo and Kapolei, to give us a little bit of backstory. So you led the creation of the MMNHWG task force, and it brought this crisis into the mainstream of politics in Hawaii, when for so long folks stayed away because of the controversial nature of sexual violence. How did you first become aware of this issue, and can you share some of the backstory of how we got here?
First, aloha to everyone, and thank you for being here. I currently actually represent Hawaiʻi, House District 43.
Ew.
I was born and raised in Namakuli. My ohana has been there close to 100 years. I've seen trafficking of boys, girls, women, and men most of my life. When I was young, I didn't know what to call it. I just knew that it existed. seen it increase, in my opinion, and from my experience. Before I was elected, I had a missing woman in Namahu, Melissa's story. She went missing in 2018, and to this day, we do not know what happened to her. This task force is important because it acknowledges that there is an issue, that there is a problem in our communities, in our locally, in the state. And we need the data, unfortunately, because we need the proof in numbers. And it's gonna help us to guide and create legislation, hopefully to address these issues in our community. I just also want to acknowledge that this is the commodification of Native women and girls and Native people have been going on in Hawaii since before statehood. You know, it's been going on for generations, and the trauma that it has left on our people has caused so much damage in our communities that it is my belief that until we start talking about it and start recognizing that it is an issue, it is going to become commonplace. When I have discussions about it, you know, in the political arena, even in my community, at first everyone, you know, is like, "What are you talking about?" You know, for some of my friends, they're like, "What do you mean?" Like, I was just trying to eat. I was just trying to survive. You know, and if you're selling yourself, that is not the way to do it. You know, and as a Lahui, we need to. I don't want to take too much time because I know we have a time limit, but we really do need to come together and protect our women and girls. And I do want to acknowledge and mahalo the men in this room, because for far too long, these kinds of issues are looked at as a woman's issue, a woman's problem. This is for wahine. It is not. It is a Lahui issue. It is a statewide issue. It's a problem that we all need to address and confront. So I am very grateful and thankful that, you know, this past legislative session and the one before, that my colleagues are in agreement with us, with all of us here, that this is an issue, and recognize that we need to do something. We cannot continue to live in Hawaii and pretend that our women and girls are not going missing, and that are not being trafficked. So I'm here today to make sure that the mana wahine who attend these conventions, the matriarchs of our families, you know what is going on in our communities and know how to address it collectively together. It's a scary issue. When I first started protesting and, you know, trying to address trafficking, I was warned to be careful, you know, because I'm rattling doors and people in power, you know, who are not gonna like that we're bringing this issue to light. But I was elected by my community and entrusted by my district to make sure that I do everything that I can, being empowered and being given the mana of our district out in the Waianae Coast, on the Leeward Coast, to start bringing this to light. We cannot be silent about it anymore. We cannot be shamed. You know, growing up, I was always told, don't be maha'oi, you know, you mind your own business, you know, you watch yourself, you know, you don't bother with other people. But when it comes to this kind of issue, it's okay to be maha'oi. It's okay to check on others. And I just want to say that I think that this task force is going to help us to move forward on these issues, to collectively protect our Native Hawaiian women and girls.
Well, hello, Representative, and I apologize for the redistricting club. But our next question moves on to something a little bit more technical to help us better understand what